Port Charles has seen its fair share of shocking returns, impossible resurrections, and long-buried secrets. But nothing could have prepared residents, or fans, for the bombshell that exploded across town when a familiar face stepped back into the spotlight. Just when everyone thought the mystery surrounding several recent events couldn't get any stranger, a shocking figure emerged from the shadows. Scott Baldwin was back, and with him came answers that threatened to change everything. For months, rumors had swirled throughout Port Charles regarding Scott's whereabouts. After his sudden disappearance, many assumed he had simply left town to handle legal matters elsewhere. Others feared something much darker had happened. Neither theory came close to the truth. The revelation began on a stormy evening at General Hospital. Elizabeth Weber had just finished her shift when she noticed something unusual. A man wearing a dark coat stood across the street, staring directly at the hospital entrance. At first, she assumed he was another concerned family member waiting for news about a patient. Then he stepped into the light. Elizabeth froze. Her heart nearly stopped. "Scott?" she whispered. The man smiled. "Hello, Elizabeth." The shocking reunion lasted only seconds before questions came pouring out. Where had he been? Why hadn't he contacted anyone? And why did he look so worried? Scott explained that he couldn't talk there. Too many people were watching. Those words immediately raised alarm bells. Elizabeth reluctantly agreed to meet him later at an abandoned warehouse near the waterfront. What Scott revealed there would send shockwaves through Port Charles. According to him, his disappearance wasn't voluntary. He had uncovered a dangerous operation connected to several powerful individuals with ties stretching far beyond Port Charles. The moment he got too close to the truth, he became a target. "They wanted me gone," Scott admitted. Elizabeth struggled to process what she was hearing. "Who?" Scott hesitated. "I need proof before I start naming names." Unfortunately, they weren't alone. Unknown to both of them, someone had followed Scott, and that person immediately reported his return. Meanwhile, elsewhere in Port Charles, Jason Morgan was investigating a separate mystery. Several recent incidents involving missing financial records, suspicious transfers, and secret meetings had caught his attention. At first glance, the events seemed unrelated, but Jason's instincts told him otherwise. As he followed the trail, every clue pointed toward a hidden mastermind operating behind the scenes. Someone was pulling strings, someone with resources, someone powerful. When Jason learned Scott had secretly returned to town, he realized the two mysteries might be connected. Jason arranged a private meeting. The tension between the men was obvious. Neither fully trusted the other. Still, both understood the stakes. Scott revealed evidence he'd gathered before disappearing. Documents, photographs, encrypted files, and one name. The name stunned Jason, because it belonged to someone everyone believed was an ally. Someone respected throughout Port Charles. Someone who had managed to avoid suspicion for years. "If this is true," Jason said quietly, "everything changes." Scott nodded. "That's exactly why they tried to get rid of me." The situation became even more dangerous when Anna Devane caught wind of Scott's return. As a seasoned investigator, Anna immediately sensed trouble. She met with Scott and demanded answers. Initially reluctant, Scott finally revealed the full story. Months earlier, he'd discovered a network responsible for manipulating business deals, political favors, and criminal activities throughout the region. The organization operated like a shadow government. Anyone who threatened exposure either disappeared or suddenly changed their story. Scott had spent months gathering evidence. Just as he prepared to go public, he was intercepted. Forced into hiding, he spent months building a case strong enough to survive scrutiny. Now he was ready. Or at least he thought he was. Because the moment news of his return began spreading, mysterious attacks started happening across Port Charles. A key witness vanished. A warehouse storing evidence mysteriously burned down. And several people connected to Scott's investigation received threatening messages. The message was clear. Someone wanted Scott silenced. Again. Meanwhile, Lucy Coe was ecstatic to learn Scott had returned. Her joy quickly turned into concern after seeing the fear in his eyes. This wasn't the Scott she remembered. He seemed older, more cautious, haunted. During an emotional reunion, Scott finally opened up. "There were moments I didn't think I'd make it back." Lucy fought back tears. "Then why risk coming back now?" Scott looked at her seriously. "Because people I care about are in danger." Those words proved prophetic. Within days, multiple residents found themselves caught in a dangerous web. Laura Collins became concerned after discovering irregularities in city records. Curtis Ashford uncovered evidence suggesting someone had been manipulating investigations for years. Even Sonny Corinthos found himself unexpectedly affected when several business connections suddenly came under scrutiny. The deeper everyone dug, the uglier the truth became. And at the center stood a figure no one suspected. The eventual revelation rocked Port Charles. The hidden mastermind had spent years cultivating trust, while secretly orchestrating events from behind the scenes. Friendships had been manipulated, relationships destroyed, crimes covered up, lives altered. The fallout threatened nearly every major family in town. As tensions escalated, Scott found himself facing his greatest challenge. He needed to present definitive proof before the mastermind could escape. Unfortunately, his enemies were already moving. One evening, while transporting crucial evidence, Scott's vehicle was forced off the road. The crash left him injured, but alive, barely. News of the accident spread quickly. Friends feared the worst. Enemies hoped their problem had finally been solved. Neither side anticipated Scott's determination. Despite his injuries, he refused to back down. With help from Jason, Anna, and Laura, he prepared one final move: a public confrontation, a dramatic exposure, and a reckoning years in the making. The showdown took place during a major charity gala attended by Port Charles's most influential citizens. No one expected drama. Everyone got much more. As speeches concluded, Scott stepped onto the stage. The room immediately fell silent. Whispers spread. Shock filled every corner. Many attendees couldn't believe he was actually standing there. Scott began calmly. He outlined his investigation, presented evidence, connected seemingly unrelated events. Piece by piece, the truth emerged. Faces throughout the crowd changed from curiosity to disbelief. Then came the final revelation: the mastermind's identity. Gasps echoed across the ballroom. Several guests literally stood in shock. Others refused to believe it. But the evidence was undeniable. Years of deception unraveled within minutes. The accused attempted to deny everything. Then came the recordings, the documents, the financial records. Each piece strengthened Scott's case. The walls finally closed in. By the end of the evening, authorities moved in. Arrests followed. Investigations expanded. And Port Charles entered a new era. Yet the biggest surprise wasn't the exposure itself. It was what Scott chose to do afterward. Rather than immediately leave town again, he decided to stay, at least for now. His return reignited old friendships, repaired broken relationships, and opened the door to countless new storylines. Laura welcomed him back warmly. Lucy hoped they might find their way back to each other. Even those who often clashed with Scott admitted Port Charles felt more complete with him around. Fans throughout town celebrated. Because Scott Baldwin wasn't merely returning as comic relief or nostalgia. He returned as a hero, a survivor, and the key figure behind one of the most explosive stories Port Charles had ever seen. As the dust settled, one question remained. Was the mastermind truly acting alone, or was there someone even more powerful still hiding in the shadows? The final scene offered a chilling clue. Late at night, an unidentified figure sat inside a dark room reviewing news reports about Scott's return. A photograph of Scott lay on the desk. The stranger slowly smiled, then picked up a phone. "Phase 1 failed," the voice said. A pause followed. "Proceed with Phase 2. The screen faded to black, and just like that, Port Charles found itself staring into another mystery. One even bigger than before. One that began the moment Kinschreiner made his unforgettable return. Because in Port Charles, the past never stays buried for long, and Scott Baldwin's greatest story may only be beginning.